Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of UPressPlay Sports. I'm your host and news editor, Richard Pereira. Joining me today is sports editor Cameron Priester and staff writer Zachary Watts. Hey, guys, how's it been going heading into this week for Thanksgiving?
Going pretty well. As far as FAU sports are concerned, we've had our ups and downs across all sports. Obviously, we'll touch on those later. As for our more national sports, I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say. Obviously, a lot's been going on with the World Cup and in the NFL and NBA as for the American sports. But yeah, a lot to talk about, a lot to dive into. So let's not waste any time.
Yeah, lots of stuff to talk about. Some good, some bad. Good stuff in the NFL, like you said, NBA. World Cup just started, so I'm ready to get into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're going to start off with the downs first, and that down being FAU Football. This past Saturday, they went on the road to Murfreesboro, Tennessee to take on Middle Tennessee, the Blue Raiders, and fell apart, losing 49-21 in a game that they needed to win to clinch bowl eligibility. And now sitting with a record of 5-6 with one last game, that being their Saturday game at noon against the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. This is a game that they must win if they are to clinch bowl eligibility and to extend their season by one more game heading into December. So, guys, what are you guys expecting for FU's last game of the regular season?
The expectations are still there. Obviously, the mindset is we need to win this game, clinch bowl eligibility. That was kind of always the goal from the beginning of the year. This isn't the most preferable position to be in, but at the same time, you kind of have to deal with the cards you're dealt with. As for the Middle Tennessee game, Cameron kind of touched on it last week. We knew the caliber of offense they had, considering how much points they had put up against the University of Miami. We knew they'd be tough to stop defensively, but even if a team's that good on offense, you can't allow their first punt to come in the third quarter. I mean, I know we had some turnovers in the first half, but I mean, we were down 28-7 going into half, I believe, maybe 28-14, something along those lines. But it's just so hard to come back when you go down that early, especially going into the locker room. You make your adjustments, but it was just a hard game. The issue I have is next week against Western Kentucky. Last game of the season is usually rivalry week. It's your biggest game of the year. But Western Kentucky's been playing good all year. They've already beaten Middle Tennessee earlier in the year. They've proven they've had a good enough defense to shut it down. But kind of what Taggart alluded to in the post-game press conference, from a coaching standpoint, it starts with them. They just have to kind of bear down this week, put the past behind them, really not revamp anything, just kind of really bear down. Eliminate the penalties, eliminate the mental mistakes, do everything you can to play your best football in all three phases of the game and try to come out with a win and clinch bowl eligibility for our fans down here in
Boca. Just as far as last Saturday, to kind of get that out of the way, it was, just really disappointing like that. Did it like you said, it's a high-powered offense. We knew that going in, but after you give up kind of 3 straight passing touchdowns, 4 in the half, you kind of would like them to see them make some sort of adjustment. And when the coaches kind of as you say, he did take his accountability, which you like to see, but when he's like, "Oh, we just didn't make adjustments," well, you're the coach, man. Make those adjustments. It's kind of disappointing. But, like you said, you put that behind us, and we still do have that opportunity to clinch bowl eligibility this week. But it just doesn't get any easier this week than it did last week. Western Kentucky's a good team. Western Kentucky's a good team. They have it's another high-powered offense. Against Rice, they put up 45. Against Charlotte, they put up 59. And they're not bad on the defensive end either. They held Middle Tennessee, like you said, to just 17. It's pretty impressive against an offense like that. We just hope that they can just put those bad vibes or whatever behind them from last week and just try to move on, because this isn't how we expected this season to go, but there is still something to play for in this bowl eligibility, and it'd be nice to see some of the upperclassmen and seniors go out with a bowl game. So we'd hopefully like them to see improve this week, but it's just not going to get any easier against Western Kentucky than it was against Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, and as I look at the stats, N'Kosi Perry wasn't bad against Middle Tennessee. He threw for 325 yards on 19 of 36 passing on 19 out of 36 passes. The issue was of how many times he was getting sacked by Middle Tennessee's defense. He got sacked 4 times. So Perry's offensive line has to do better in protecting him. And for the defense, they allowed 448 passing yards and 5 touchdowns against Chase Cunningham, who had a spectacular performance of 40 out of 54 passes completion. So you just got to do better in pressuring the opposing quarterback and getting some sacks on him, because that is not going to cut it. And moving on from FAU football, we'll move on to men's basketball. And men's basketball is maintaining their strong start to this season, having a 3-game winning streak. After that incredible victory over Florida, they maintained it heading back home with back-to-back wins over Bryant in the Boca Raton Mega Bowl and another win against Detroit Mercy. Both of those scores were 85-74 and 76-55, respectively. Guys, what do you think of FAU's strong start to the season after 5 games in?
I'll kind of just combine the two together. Just because the Detroit Mercy game, I had a good feeling we would pull out a win there. I wasn't too concerned with that. Bryant, they had already made the tournament last year, or the Invitational, whichever one it was. But they were a strong team last year. Bryant had an offense which was averaging around 118 points per game heading into the night. They're really good offensively, but we've kind of showed what our strengths are, and that's defense in terms of rebounding and our bench depth. I'm pretty sure in the Bryant game, we outscored them with our bench 45-9, which is insane. That just shows that from a depth perspective, whoever we put in is able to put up consistent points. But I thought one of the main things that I wanted to see and what I really like to see was our defense. I mean, we really stepped up in that regard. We held them to 36% shooting from the floor, 27 from 3-point, and we forced 21 turnovers in that regard. That when you can play that consistently on both sides of the ball, that's all you really need. On offense, Elijah Martin's kind of stepped up as our primary scorer, but he's not really our. I don't know if I'd consider him a number 1 guy in terms of just when we need a bucket or a basket, we're going to give him the ball. Anyone can put up points for us. And I like that we have a all-around team trust in one another. Any guy will put up anywhere between 10 to 15 points a night. We don't really need anyone that's going to say, oh, I'll take over offensive responsibility. It's a very team-played game right now, and I like that for the most part. In terms of the Mercy game, I think we held them 18 to 55 from the floor, 3 from 16 from 3. So another great defensive performance. And then again, bench points 27 to 11, that category. All around, just great team basketball, and we just need to build on that moving forward.
Yeah, I just want to echo what he's saying about team basketball. This team is so deep. They have so many, guys that you can trust on any given night to go out on the floor and give you 7, 8 points, 10 points, something like that. And you need that. And also the fact that Coach Dusty May is not, scared to make those adjustments, even if it's early on in the game. He will completely change the lineup on the floor. He likes kind of keeping a hot hand on the floor, and that's good. You want to see that. And we have so many guards that can just run the floor so well. Between Martin, like you said, he's kind of filling that number 1 scorer role, but you also have Nick Boyd, who's been playing in the starting lineups a couple of games to start. Isaiah Gaines, Jalen Gaffney. You have so many guys that you can just trust to run the offense for you. So that's good, and that's what you want to see early on in the season, like we have.
Yeah, and I'm really happy with how the offense has played so far this season. Like you can tell that they have that next man up mentality, especially when one of their main players is shooting cold from the field. That they are stepping up to the plate and giving the team off the great offensive production, whether it be in the starting lineup or off the bench. Like you have multiple players scoring 8 or more points every game, and that's very good for the offense to have, especially for Dusty May, who might be having the best season of his FAU coaching career. So hopefully he can keep that up. As this Saturday on November 26th at 1 p.m. they'll be heading to Albany, New York, to take on, of course, Albany. And yeah, it will be an interesting matchup on the road, especially in the Empire State. So we'll wish them the best of luck from there. And moving on from men's basketball, we have women's basketball. After a disappointing 75-42 loss at Miami last Wednesday, they did bounce back this week on Monday with a 61-35 blowout victory over Palm Beach Atlantic. While this is a team that they defeated last year in pretty much a similar convincing fashion, what do you guys think of FEU playing so far to begin the season after 3 games?
I think the name of the game here is just adjustments. You know, in terms of that defeat, I think one of our biggest issues was we got outscored on fast breaks 22-2, and then from a turnover margin, we had 25 turnovers compared to their 6. It's just really hard to win basketball games in that regard. Another issue was we got out rebounded by a lot, and that led to 50 points in the key for Miami, which kind of like led to their victory. But, you know, when you go from playing a higher caliber team, it kind of exposes where your weaknesses are, and then you need to build from there. I thought in comparison from what we did in the Palm Beach game, that's exactly what we made our fixes on. You know, we were kind of a poor free throw team in that Miami game, but then we come around and make 13 straight free throws versus Palm Beach Atlantic. You know, this time around against Palm Beach, we out rebound 50-29. And then I think another issue that we still kind of have to address is the turnovers are a bit of an issue. We lost the turnover battle in both games, although we were able to pull out a win against Palm Beach. But, you know, it's still early in the season. Like, there's still small things that you can find, and I can nitpick and see like where we need to adjust. But like I said, in comparison to our men's team, again, kind of that next man up mentality. Just finding the next person in line to get your buckets. I think we had 4 players in double digits.
Yep.
I believe. Yeah. So in that regard, team basketball, love to see it. Improve from your mistakes. Love to see it. Everything's trending in the right direction. I know we have a pretty favorable schedule coming up, I believe, and this Thanksgiving Classic. So hopefully we can come out strong in that and really kind of set the tone for the rest of the season.
Yeah, Palm Beach Atlantic isn't the strongest opponent in the world, but it is good to see a win after kind of struggling a little bit against Miami. I thought they were great. They were great at getting to the line early on in the first quarter. I want to say they drew 6 or 7 fouls in the first quarter alone. So like getting to the line early on, that was great. It's also great to see that, like you said, they have a bunch of a bunch of players who can score. I think they had 4 last night against Palm Beach. Finished with double-digit point totals. That's great. Like you said, the next man up. There are some things you'd like them to see clean up just a little bit as they move forward. Like you said, the turnovers, you want to see that cleaned up just a little bit. You preferably like to see them shoot the ball like a little bit more efficient. They were finished 33% from the field last night, just 15% from 3-point range. But you know that's something you can fix. Hopefully, moving on. They made some adjustments after the Miami loss heading into Palm Beach. So you're hopefully like them to see the same thing, have them make some adjustments moving forward. But it's definitely you feel good where you are right now, 3 games in, I think.
Yeah, and I would agree to some extent. Like they did recover from their poor free throw shooting performance at Miami. They shot 4 for 11 in that game, and they bounced back with a 22 out of 35 performance, 22 out of 25 performance at the stripes, so at the charity stripe. So they are definitely making adjustments and improving as the season goes on. But again, this would be one of their easier matchups since it's Palm Beach Atlantic, a team that they did beat last year, and what was a 4 year from them. So hopefully they can keep this type of performance up in the next upcoming games. As for the Thanksgiving Classic, as was mentioned by Zach, they take on Binghamton on Friday, November 25th at 4 p.m. And it will actually be on a back-to-back. They'll be playing on back-to-back days. They take on Binghamton first on Friday, and then on Saturday, November 26th, also at 4 p.m., they take on Sacred Heart. So best of luck to the Owls, and hopefully they can give their fans something to celebrate for Thanksgiving weekend. And moving on from our section with FAU Sports, we head on to national sports, and we're going to start off with the NFL. We definitely had a little interesting scenario with Zach Wilson after an astonishing victory from the Patriots by a game-winning punt return touchdown. And he had some post-game comments that were quite interesting, saying that he did not let the defense down despite his poor performance overall that included multiple punts throughout the game. What do you guys think of Zach Wilson's performance and his post-game comments?
I think you have to mature in all facets of the game throughout your NFL career. Obviously, this includes your post-game interviews, being your words a little better. Obviously, I'm just trying to put words into his mouth, I guess. He doesn't want to be too self, put the blame on anyone. But in this instance, you're kind of seen as a quarterback leader of the team. It'd probably be smart to take accountability in this regard, considering you averaged 2.7 inches in the second half. And yes, that's an actual stat. They averaged 2.7 inches per play. I'm pretty sure they didn't even cross their own 35-yard line in the second half until late in the fourth quarter. I don't even think they did it all, to be honest with you. It was embarrassing. Even as a Patriots fan, that game was abysmal to watch.
Until the end.
Yeah, that was just painful. I mean, I don't know I don't really have faith in either team making playoff runs at this point. I don't even know what I was watching. I get Mekhi Becton went down for the Jets. I know you're still a young team, but at the same time, you were 6-3. You're coming off a win against the Bills. You got to show me something. It looked like Bill Belichick was just literally knowing what was going to happen, and then vice versa. Same thing for the Patriots. When your own head coach thinks that the opposing linebackers know what play's happening, it probably means you're not calling very effective plays. But yeah, not very good before, during, or after the game for the Jets, especially Zach Wilson. Hopefully he'll bounce back. I can't let the name Zach be disgraced like this. It's just not good for the
brand. As far as Zach Wilson, my take is that he's not good at playing quarterback in the NFL. And that very kind of childish comment post game is not going to help his situation out any better, because even if you truly believe you didn't let your defense down, I don't know how you can sitting at a podium staring at a box score that says you went 9 for 22 and then be like, okay, I didn't let my defense down. Yes, you did. Sorry. But I think I'm kind of out on Zach Wilson, and I say that because his mechanics are so terrible. He throws the ball literally just his arm. He doesn't put any lower body into it at all. And yeah, there's a lot of quarterbacks when they come in the league, they have a problem like that. But usually at this point in your career, you show signs that you can fix that. He hasn't in 1.5 seasons, he hasn't shown any ability to kind of fix that, or any willingness, kind of fix that. And so I don't know if I'm not gonna say that. I know he's not the guy in New York. So yeah, that, like you said, that was a really hard game to watch. I also thought, even though it was kind of blowout, I thought the Cowboys game was interesting for a little bit to watch, because how they dominated that game just so much. And I think the most credit belongs to the Cowboys pass rush. That is ferocious. The pass rush they have, led by Micah. think they definitely lead the league in sacks right now by a sizable margin. Then they had plenty on Sunday. There were times where Kirk Cousins was like not even at the top of his drop yet, and he's getting hit by like multiple Cowboy defenders. So you can't win games like that. So it, I thought they were like just got destroyed by that. Um, yeah, that was an interesting game to watch for sure. I was interested to what you guys thought about that.
You're on mute, Zach.
Thanks for that. I'm gonna on that a little bit. I think a lot of teams this week kind of got exposed for what they truly were. The Eagles beating the Jeff Saturday head coach in the Colts, excuse me. But you only beat them by 1 point. That's interesting. Giants, you're a 7-2 team and you get blown out by at the time 3-6 Lions. That's interesting considering.
Remember, Dan Campbell is coaching that team. You're gonna have something special.
Yeah, that is true. Hard Knocks did not let me down. I will always have some false hope in whatever Hard Knocks team there is. It's just how it is. You buy into the hype. Again, like we said, Cowboys really exposed the Vikings. But then again, it may just be because Kirk Cousins is the greatest 1 p.m. quarterback of all time. I swear, anytime he plays a 1 p.m. game, he is going off for 400 yards. Like, it's guaranteed. But anytime, any prime time slot, 425, not happening. I don't know what it is. I wish I knew. It's very suspect. Wish I could give an explanation, but not my job. Other than that, though, across the league, just a really weird week. Chiefs getting bailed out by the refs is kind of annoying me again. But their time will come. I don't know. I guess I'm not willing to accept the Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce reign on the league or dynasty takeover. I'm not willing to accept, and I will fight it till the day I die. But they are good, and they're probably the top contender out of the AFC.
And the Rams did lose again to the Saints 27-20. Do you think they're done, even though they're defending their Super Bowl title?
They've been done.
They've been done.
might be able to call it. That whole, like, all of the West right now is like kind of just odd to me. I would really love to, be in the Arizona Cardinals like building today after that loss, because they're kind of in such like an odd spot as an organization. They just shelled out so much money to Kyler, and I mean, we can't really talk about that loss to him. He wasn't playing. But they also shelled out big money to Kingsbury not that long ago, and they're just in an odd spot right now. So and whenever you shell out money like that to 1 or 2 guys, it's hard to build around them. So they're in an interesting spot moving forward, and I'm kind of interested to see how they play that after a loss like that. That was kind of a boring game to watch.
And of course, the Broncos fell apart again. They have a 3-7 record after a 22-16 loss against the Raiders. There are plenty of teams that we thought would do good that end up being disappointing. And Russell Wilson and the Broncos.
Letting Russ cook once again ends up in a house fire.
I think it's interesting to note that there was a statistic brought up to me that I really wanted to touch on. Russell Wilson may not throw 17 touchdowns this year, and that's an important fact because he has 17 bathrooms in his house. So who knows? But he's not even gonna have more touchdowns than toilets in his house. I've heard a lot of rumors around him using audibles, but I have heard that story was proven false by his own line. But yeah, it's not looking good for them. Another team that probably end up going to make some big switches at the end of the year is the Raiders. You brought in Devontae Adams and Josh McDaniels, and looks like he's going to be back as the Patriots OC by the end of the year. If he's not able to turn things around quick, because that is looking ugly down there.
Wow, it's definitely an interesting week of NFL football, especially with Zach Wilson's comments post game, and definitely some teams that continue to be disappointing. And moving on from the NFL, we have the NBA. The Lakers are finally starting to win some games, even though LeBron is out, and they have Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is looking good as their sixth man coming off the bench. They have 3 straight wins, even though most of their wins were against the Detroit. 2 of those wins were against Detroit and San Antonio. They were convincing wins for the most part, and hopefully they can keep that up once LeBron comes back. But man, Philadelphia, the 76ers situation is looking very interesting, especially with the injuries that have happened to their core. But Therese Maxey being down, James Harden being down, now Joel Embiid being out for a few games. Is this going to be like an injury year for the Sixers, or is this just going to be temporary?
It's just looking bad overall. I mean, Thibault, I believe, is like one of only 9 players in history to ever feature like a 40-50 line where he's like below those across the board. Like I think he's 33% from the line, given he's only like 1 for 3 or something like that. But yeah, just the players you do have on the court just aren't doing much for you, and the players that normally do put up numbers for you, just can't stay on the court. It's simple as that. Just one of those years where it seems like nothing's working out. Honestly, I'm convinced that Philly sacrificed everything in their sports luck to the Eagles and the Phillies. They kind of just like, look, we'll succeed in those regards, and then we're just going to let basketball go back to trusting the process, whatever that process may be. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in Philly, man.
Yeah, I think you're gonna. If your team is kind of led by Joel Embiid, every season's going to be an injury season. It feels like every year we have like the same conversation about like him and his ability to stay healthy. And it's like if your centerpiece is like not on the court a majority of the season, it's just like not a successful formula usually. We'll see. We'll see. Another thing I wanted to bring up is how even though they had kind of a rough start to the season, the Chicago Bulls just own the Celtics, pulling off again for the or they have 4 losses. 2 of them are the Bulls. Just want to point that out, but I'm not really confident about them moving into the season, like to the rest of the season. Their starting lineup just really isn't very cohesive. Patrick Williams, he did have 17 against the Celtics, but I don't think he's the answer at forward for the Bulls. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up just real quick to the 2 Celtics fans I have in here.
Well, the 9-game winning streak was snapped by Chicago. I checked the season series with that matchup, and currently Chicago leads 2-1.
Excuse me.
It's all good. It's a 2-1 lead for Chicago with one last matchup later in the season. But hey, it was a great winning streak for the Celtics, and it's very good for them to have, as they are expected to be at the very least in the top 3 of the East. So right now they're number 1 in the East, with Milwaukee trailing them by half a game. So it's definitely going to be an interesting battle to see who wins the Eastern Conference in that aspect. Another thing I do want to talk to you guys about is there is a certain team in the Western Conference that's been lighting the beam with their recent winning streak, and that is the Sacramento Kings, who have 6 straight wins and are in the playoff picture at the 5th spot. What do you guys think of their performances this past week, especially with their winning streak?
Not just any winning streak, to say the least. This features some pretty good wins. You know, you kind of sent the Cavs on their losing streak, considering how hot they were at the time. You got a home win against the Warriors, who've been red hot as of late, but they're always going to be good, so long as Steph Curry's on the court. Kind of similar to the whole Lakers situation. Like, yeah, you did get wins against Pistons and Spurs, but you got them like pretty convincingly. I don't really know. Well, I think the Grizzlies one will be pretty easy with Ja out, pretty much definitely with that ankle injury as of late. But they've been one of the more improved teams coming into this season, along with the Pacers and the Trailblazers. I got to be honest. When the Kings gave up Halliburton, is that correct? Yeah, when they gave up Burton, I was completely lost on that. I was like, why did you not want to build around him? I thought he was a phenomenal player, but I guess it's worked out for both sides. Yeah. So I can't really complain. But, still early in the season, teams may be playing above performance levels. I don't know. I can't say if they'll put this up all season long. But then again, I still am on the wave that Larry Markkinen is somehow turning into European Kobe Bryant for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why. But they made him into a 2 guard as like a 6'10" man, and he's hitting fadeaways and running pick and rolls as the point. I don't know what they're doing, but it's working. It's weird.
Yeah, as far as the Kings, I don't want to like buy in just yet, but they look good. Like you said, like the 6 wins, and then they kind of got. We mentioned this, I think, a couple pods ago because of some questionable officiating. They may have like kind of got screwed out of a win against Warriors earlier in the season, but I think they're really good. The whole West is just kind of like the Wild West would be a good way to call it. With between them, like in the Jazz. It'll be interesting to see. I don't want to like put too much stock into like, especially like very, very like young teams like the Kings and the Jazz this kind of early in the season. But I think if they should be a team to look out for. I don't think just because they're young and it's so early in the season, we should just kind of, write them off as, like luck or whatever. But I definitely think they're able, the way they're built, they're able to make some noise late in the season around the playoff and things like that, playing and things like that.
Yeah. With Sacramento, they have a 6-game winning streak, and every win they get, they're lighting the beam literally from their arena. So, how many times do you think the Kings will light the beam?
Plenty. That's one of the cool. I think that's one of the cooler traditions. Like after a win or something. Like I would like the Chicago Cubs. It's baseball, but like around Chicago, they'll fly like a W flag like around the city after they win. Cool traditions like that, I think, are like good for the sport. I think that's like a cool one that the Kings do.
Just know these things can backfire. I know for the Red Sox, I think it was 2 years ago, we had that kids eat free after a win, and we were historically bad. So everyone would just rate them saying like the kids are starved and like we're letting the kids die out here. We don't care about the children, but I'm sure they'll have some jokes to make about the beam in the sky for the Kings. Who knows? We'll see. Hopefully they keep winning because, like they said, I do think it's a really unique and interesting idea to add. I always like when teams are creative in that regard. It always brings new fans into the sport, and it makes it more interesting to come to games. So good on their part.
It makes me wonder what happens to planes that are like flying around Sacramento, like when this huge like beam of light is like flying. Yeah. Just wondering.
Blinded, they get blind. But yeah, and moving on to our final topic of the day, World Cup soccer, and especially the United States. The World Cup kicked off this past Sunday. A couple of games have passed, and one of those games involved the United States, who played their first World Cup game in 8 years. Their last game was in 2014 in the round of 16 loss to Belgium, and they finally played their first World Cup game against Wales. And they had the lead for most of the game. They took a 1-0 lead off a brilliant goal from Timothy Weah with a great assist from Christian Pulisic. And in the second half, they slowed down a little bit, weren't the same as they were in the first half, and conceded a late penalty as Wales' star player, Gareth Bale, converted the penalty, and the U.S. managed to escape with a 1-1 draw. So what do you guys think of how the U.S. played in their first World Cup game, in their first game back in the World Cup?
Yeah. It makes me sick to my stomach when you say escape with a draw, just because if you were to look how that first half played out, you knew that we were the better team. I still don't think we rolled our best roster out there. I'll try to keep this as concise and try to let you guys get some things in. So I'll start off with this. Number one, you kind of see the disparity between international level coaching and lower division coaching throughout the group stage. You want to look at quality coaching, go look at the second half of that game versus US and Wales. Wales definitely better game plan heading to the second half. Look at Argentina, Saudi Arabia. Argentina had way better caliber players, still ended up losing to Saudi Arabia because of better coaching. It's painful to watch. First of all, our subs, where's Reyna? Where's Gio Reyna? Wow. He said he was 100% healthy in post game. Why is he not on the field? I get we bring on Aronson to kind of bring in that youth, his speed, kind of let him take over. We seemed totally content with not taking any shots. I think we had one shot on target the entire game, and that was our one goal by Weah. I mean, it made me sick, honestly. It was very obvious we were just trying to play the ball through Pulisic. Pulisic was sending crosses as if he was still playing with Chelsea members and not the MLS team that we had rolled out there. Shout out Zimmerman. Your MLS play style was showing. How you give up a PK when Bale has his back turned to you, I have no idea. By the way, shout out our keeper, Matt Turner. Somehow, if he would have saved that PK, instant legend. I'll let Tim Howard. I'll let you guys speak. I'm so angry at that showing.
Yeah, I agree. It was kind of like to be like that excited just for it to like kind of wash away a little bit at the end. It was kind of disappointing. I thought they looked great in the first half. They were aggressive, especially around the penalty box, and they were like trying to make opportunities for themselves. And that kind of just wasn't like the same play style in the second half. They weren't as aggressive. They weren't like getting the ball around the box as much. And it's not going to get any easier on Friday against England. They had a pretty good showing against Iran. I think it was 6 goals, if I'm not mistaken, they scored. That's not a bad performance. I just would like to see it like them just be more aggressive throughout the entire game and just not kind of like fade away like they did in the second half against Wales.
Yeah. I would rather see them play exactly how they did in the first half, aggressive and doing great defensively, like keeping the best players on the opposing team quiet, like how they did with Gareth Bale in the first half. That was how you're supposed to do it. And the second half, that's really all adjustments. You have to do better with your adjustments and substitutions, and that's a coaching standpoint. Like the players are going to do what they can, but when it comes to adjustments, that's the coaches. And they do have 2 more games against Friday, Thanksgiving weekend against England, a very big matchup, and Tuesday against Iran. So the best hope for the U.S. is to get a win and hope for the best as they try to get a top 2 spot in their group. And man, best of luck to them because it's great to see them back there, back in the World Cup. It's good to see them back.
One thing I want to add is that like American head coaches like in the NFL and NBA should take like the same approach as Greg Berhalter, I think I said his name right, and just wear khaki shorts or khaki pants and a t-shirt on the sidelines. Enough with like the suits and like the branded pullovers. T-shirt, khaki shorts on the sideline. That's
Yeah. I was just gonna say the way I coped with our draw is I was gonna say, we purposely sat Reyna just because we're hiding our best starting 11 from England. We can't expose our secrets. Because honestly, we could have lost to Wales, we could lose to Iran. I wouldn't mind, but if we lose to England, I will be very upset. This is at least get a draw. I'm still expecting win. I don't care. I know England's a better team on paper, but it doesn't matter. They never perform in the World Cup. That's just how it is. But the biggest draw takeaway I have for this World Cup is this is kind of the generation to prove that
Might not have enough.
Yeah, soccer can be the best thing for the generation moving forward. This could be it. Like this is the generation you have to prove.
Yeah, for sure. With that, that'll be it for this episode of UPressPlay Sports. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. Click the bell to keep up with notifications from us. Also be sure to go on upressonline.com to keep up with news, sports, and more content alike. To follow us on Twitter, it's for me, at Rich26 Pereira, for Cameron, at Prehistor Cameron, and for Zach, at Zach Watts 1_. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day.